I want to talk about Billy Napier, Florida, and the quarterback situation there, which has kind of been all over the map since the end of the season. Now, Graham Mertz stepped into the role, was a solid starter for Florida, just like he was a solid starter for Wisconsin. And then along with some other off-the-field issues, notably Jaden Rashada, there was some good news that happened for Florida fans that followed a season that saw them finish 5-7 and then saw them have what many people believe is the toughest schedule in the country. But anybody that's going to schedule Samford, I got to look at you kind of funny, right? When you tell me that you got the toughest schedule in the country and you play in Samford. That said, Miami is tough. You want to beat A&M, and then the SEC schedule, it's on par with Oklahoma. I think those two, I think we all agree, have the toughest schedules in the entire conference. Though, again, you play in Samford, which is another school in Birmingham, not UAB. You know, it's Stanford. Okay? That said, I don't want to linger there. Where I do want to linger is Billy Napier giving his public remarks. A couple of things. First was, I don't often see what others seem to see when these guys come to the days and they talk. What I heard from Billy Napier was a whole lot about how the University of Florida is great. And it is, right? 23 people are going to be in Paris for the Olympics, 3 coaches. It is the highest rated public institution in this country, but that doesn't mean what it used to, because we no longer set the standard in public education around the world. But it's getting a little bit further away from football, which is kind of the point. As he kept talking, I kept hearing him talk about not football until such time he started to talk about football. And when he did, he made it sound like Graham Mertz is going to be the dude to start week 1 against Miami. All right. It's not just that he made it sound like that. The quote that I wrote down and raised an eyebrow toward is, I think, one that you would agree I did not expect to hear full-throated. Again, I'm not in Gainesville. I don't follow the program the way that a Gator fan follows the program, but I keep up. That's my job, right? It's one of these where when you tell me that one of the most important decisions that any person made around Florida football this year was Graham Mertz choosing to return to Florida, my follow question is, does that mean that you don't think that DJ Lagway is going to start for you against Miami? Wild to me, because DJ Lagway is a more talented player than Graham Mertz. Is he a better player? Billy Napier knows the answer to that question, and I don't have a choice, right? We got to watch him do all this. But he had talked about it, and he knows who DJ Lagway is, because it's real difficult to not know who DJ Lagway is, which is the best quarterback in high school football in 2023. For those of y'all that don't know, that's the National Gatorade Player of the Year last year. Jackson Arnold was a National Gatorade Player of the Year at Oklahoma. Jackson Dart was a National Gatorade Player of the Year, Corner Canyon. DJ Lagway threw for 4,600 yards, 58 TDs last year in high school out of Willis, Texas. Like, this dude got all the tools that you want out of a quarterback to play in the SEC. And a lot of the conversation was around just what Billy Napier was saying with that. And I think it's that he wants to go with the guy that he trusts the most, and a guy that he expects to grow up a bunch in Lagway, who went 12 of 21 for 173 with 2 TDs and an interception in Florida's spring game. So I get it, right? You want to give him time to grow up. You're also in a hurry, I think, because we do live in an age of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. So it used to be you go to the transfer portal and go somewhere, play immediately because you want to play right away. You want to play football. You didn't come here to sit for 1-2 years to play, let alone a year, let alone a season. Now, people will induce you into the transfer portal with a lot of money and offering you the opportunity to play. And this is a year in which I know that Napier and Florida have been building toward this. Like, they are much older than they were the last couple of years. They took some lumps. But 5-7 at Florida is still 5-7 at Florida. And it's dangerous to think of Florida as having to be good, because it's real difficult to be good. Like, it's not just that Florida's Florida, flagship university in the state. It's that they compete for the same regional players as Miami, Florida State, Central Florida now. All of those teams are good, right? All those things have chased championships in the last 10 years. Like, say what you want about Central Florida, but they went undefeated in 2017 and 2018, right? They have a claim to the 2017 national championship. Florida State won the national championship in 2014, 2013. They are good. You know, Miami, a little bit further away. Got to take it back to Larry Coker and them at the turn of the century, which kind of puts them in the Oklahoma boat. But you get my point there. And then it's not as if you can go to the other neighboring states, Alabama and Georgia, and expect to win. Alabama and Auburn do a great job of recruiting the state of Alabama, as does Georgia in the state of Georgia. You get what I'm saying here. Like, Florida recruits nationally, but the point is, if you can just rope off South Florida, Central Florida, the Panhandle, do you realize that if I told you that you could get Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson coming from both corners of Florida to go to Florida, what kind of football team would that be? And it turns out they didn't need all of that, right? Like, it's wild. Like, you would love to have Lamar Jackson. You would love to have Derrick Henry, but I'm just telling you that's what was around Gainesville. That's what needed to happen. And I know that there's a bunch of folks that remember Coach Spurrier making it happen with the fun and shoot, making it happen with Urban Meyer, right? Off the field, totally different thing. On the field, they won championships, right? Plural, right? Dan Mullen had that thing going in the right direction until he didn't. And Billy Napier came over from Louisiana after being raised up by Nick Saban to really be, I thought, was a slam dunk hire. It just hasn't gone as well for him as many of us thought it would have gone. But I think putting the damper on DJ Lagway is probably going to help him and us in the long run, but that also means you got to ride with Graham Mertz. I don't think that Graham Mertz is good enough to win you a conference championship. I don't. When he came out to Wisconsin from Overland Park, he was being compared to Russell Wilson. That's how we talked about him in the Big Ten. And then he struggles, right? He struggles in the way that he struggled at Wisconsin. Thought that perhaps a change in scenery, maybe moving south, maybe be good for his skin, soak up this vitamin D. Nah, it's the same SEC. And it's Florida. It's not Vanderbilt. You know, it's not, no shade, South Carolina, Kentucky. You are expected to compete for the SEC championship each and every year. Is that fair? No, given what you have around. But hey, it's football. It's not fair. It's never been fair. It's never been fair. Even when we have scholarship limits, right? It's never been fair. People with more money are probably going to get better players. Better players does not mean that you're going to win championships, as Texas, hello. It does mean that you are expected to compete at a very high level, and 5-7 ain't going to cut it, okay? South Carolina went 5-7 last year. That's my point here. I think DJ Lagway going out of his way to say, hey, look, I will follow Coach Napier on this and see what happens. It's one thing. I also want to see what it looks like if Florida don't get off on the good foot. If they take a loss to Miami to start, right, and then they have a losing record or even 500 going into their SEC competition, it's just going to be difficult to get wins because everybody up and down, except Vanderbilt, can beat you in the SEC. I genuinely believe that. I even think Mississippi State's got a chance to jump up and bite some people because Jeff Lebby doesn't run an offense that doesn't put up a ton of yards. Like they're gonna score. Are they gonna have some boneheaded decision making? Yeah, just ask Oklahoma fans about our son, Jeff Lebby. I say our son because he's alumni like I'm alumni. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma. But I'm interested in that. He's another guy that I think I'm fired up to see coach in the SEC because his entire makeup and mentality is built for such an opportunity. And I think he's in a good spot. We'll just see because Blake Shapen has never thrown for 3,000 yards in a season. And Jeff Levy's never had a quarterback who didn't throw for 3,000 yards in a season. I also want to take just a little bit of time at the end of this here to talk about Greg Sankey stirring the pot. Okay, so it felt like Greg Sankey was on his best behavior through the first 3 days of SEC Media Days. And then he goes on a radio show to say, look, Georgia was one of the 4 best teams in college football last year at the time of the selection for the college football playoff. They didn't get selected. You didn't see them stomping up and down and whining. Shot across the bow at Florida State as Florida State is trying to get up out of the ACC, and Florida State would love to get an invitation from the SEC, but that don't look like it's happening. Florida State and Clemson have a better opportunity of going independent, I think, at this point than joining the SEC, but I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think as long as you are winning at a high level, you're going to be able to put together your own schedules and put together your own television contract, kind of like Notre Dame does with NBC, and it would be okay, right? You could play some from the Big Ten, you play some from the SEC, play some from the ACC, and then make it do what it do. Maybe even throw a Big 12 team in there. But Greg Sankey is about the SEC. And, if nothing else, I enjoy that. I enjoy that you wear the white hat for your squad and you wear the black hat for them. We are in a world where people feel very uncomfortable saying what's wrong with what we're doing or not doing. Like most of my colleagues, they don't want to speak ill of people in and around our profession, right? Because it'll ruin your access and it'll ruin your relationships with people that you would otherwise want to keep those relationships with. But I didn't get to this spot by simply going after people. I also didn't get to this spot by kissing anybody's ass. I got to the spot by being fair and honest. If I'm fair and honest, I think people will respect that authenticity and give you the appropriate amount of respect and room for your thought. Greg Sankey also benefits from what I think is the best advice that I've ever got about personality. If you're a mean cuss, be the same mean cuss with everybody you be. Then people don't take it personally. They just know that's how you get down. It's when you start trying to change up that people cop an attitude, right? This is why I think so many people were on Team Kendrick Lamar when they didn't know how to talk about Drake, because Drake kind of all over the map. We could never really nail that dude down, where Kendrick Lamar, he's from Compton. And that means that you're not always going to have access to these other things. It means that you are going to have access to what you got access to, and either you're going to ride for that or not. Drake's not going to have access to Compton, and yet he would try to co-opt some of the West Coast in a way that a dude from Toronto just shouldn't be from Toronto. I'm from Tulsa. I be from Tulsa. On the way out here, I thought it's funny. Two things. I still have a way of getting underneath my colleague's skin. My goodness. I said that I thought that because Billy Napier was thanking the media profusely, that it was a sign of things to come. And I was reminded that Nick Saban thanks the media after, at every SEC media days. And I'm not always sure how to take that stuff, right? Obviously, I was wrong to say that coaches thanking media for doing their jobs is in direct correlation to how many games they're going to win or think they're going to win, because I've been around coaches that didn't give a damn, and I've been around coaches that were losing season, spent 12 minutes thanking us for what we're doing. Either way, it's not going to change the outcome of the game. That's my point, right? What you are going to do is what we're going to talk about. Okay? I'm talking about Florida this way because they went 5-7. If Florida went 10-3, I'd probably be talking about them the way I do LSU, right? The way that I do about what I think Tennessee could be, right? And I will continue to evolve that thought as we get more facts, but that was one. The second one is, why y'all got to hate on the turtleneck? Like, I like my look. This is my look. This is my uniform. This is what I wear. It's hot. It's cold. It's always cold in my house because I always like to have it cool in my house because I'm that kind of cat. But I just didn't know that it was going to get underneath everybody's skin the way it did. All right, we'll be back here a little bit later on with some more observations from SEC Media Days.